Hi, I'm Barbara Beck, host of Welcome Home, where we love telling life-changing stories that offer us hope and inspire us in our walk with Jesus Christ. When we produce Welcome Home, we're always on the lookout for new stories that we can make into special programs that simply spotlight someone's journey, that just tell the story. And today's life-changing story is one which will hopefully touch your heart and give you a glimpse into how God truly fashions His custom-made plan for each of our lives. So sit back, relax, and enjoy today's life-changing story. Hi viewers, I'm so glad that you joined us today. We have such an interesting story about unfair persecution. You know, if we live long enough, we're going to all have things in our lives that are unfair. Perhaps we'll be persecuted, but perhaps we will just have to learn how to handle it in a godly way. And our guest today is just such an incredible story. You may remember reading about this a couple of years ago. It's the Krispy Kreme donut guy who was driving in his car, and I'll let you hear the rest of the story from him. But his story has kind of blown me away, and how wonderful it is to have a godly man on our set today to tell us how he handled unfair persecution. Meet Dan Rushing. Hi, Dan.
Hey, Barbara. I'm so happy to be here. How are
you're
you?
So sweet to come. I appreciate you being here.
No problem.
Well, this happened in December of 2015.
Right.
You had retired, I guess, by then as a park ranger for the city of Orlando, Florida, right? And so you were a hard worker, an honest worker. You'd been with them for years and years and years. And the interesting part to me about your story, Dan, is that you're doing something altruistic. You're a guy with a big heart for the Lord, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Tell us about that night or day, maybe it was a day,
yeah.
What you were doing and where you were going and what happened.
Well, I have a friend, Peter Pooler, who is, at that time was in stage 4 cancer of the spine. And every Friday I would run him over to the doctor for his chemo treatment. He was at the doctor. I would run to the gym, work out. I'm at the gym 5 or 6 days a week for 30-something years. So I dropped him. I'm going to the gym, and all of a sudden I see lights behind me. I thought, I better pull over. So it was a female officer, very pretty lady, walked up, and I said hi, and she said hi. And then she just kind of stared at me, and I said, what
did I do wrong?
Yeah, did I do something wrong? And she said, well, you were going a little fast. I said, oh, really? Yeah, she said, you were doing 41 and a 30. Well, I didn't want to argue with her. Maybe I was, you know.
It's easy to do.
Sure.
We've all done it.
I said, oh, okay. And she just stood there looking at me. And I said, okay.
What do I do? What's
Are you
next?
going to give me a ticket?
Right? Yeah.
And she said, well, there was another officer standing there too. Said, do you mind if I search your car? I said, tell you what. If you don't give me a ticket, you can search the car. Because
you had no reason to. You weren't worried about anybody searching your car. I would let somebody search my car, right?
Well, yeah, not anymore, but
not anymore, right? You have learned your lesson. Do not let people search, just because she didn't have any legal right, really, to search your car.
No, she had to have my permission.
Okay.
And I didn't want to get a ticket, which I thought I might get, so I said, sure.
Yeah. Well, let's clarify one thing too. You are in a kind of a rough area of town, right?
Yeah.
A town that
the gym is where the old Amway Center used to be. So it is a bad area. And they even asked me, what are you doing in this part of town? I said, I'm going to the gym. I'm a city employee. I've been going to the gym for 30 years. So they're searching my car. I'm thinking, wow, this is taking a little bit long. So the officer came back and went, okay, you want to tell us about it? And I said,
about my car?
Yeah, tell you about what? She said, we found it. I said, no, because there's nothing to find. You couldn't have found anything. And she said, yeah, we got it. I said, what are you talking about? She said, well, we thought it was crack at first, but now we know it's crystal methamphetamines. And I went, I don't even know what that is. I've never even smoked a cigarette.
So what do you look like? Are you, I mean, you say you're going to the gym. Do you look like a nice looking, you're a nice looking man,
Shorts,
right?
T-shirt.
You hadn't been drinking. You obviously you don't smoke. There was
Nope.
nothing about you that was suspicious other than you were in the wrong place at the wrong time.
I was in a bad area.
Okay. So she searches the car and she finds crystal meth.
She
Or what
said.
she thinks is crystal meth.
So they showed it to me, and Barbara, if you took your little fingernail, there was 4 little teeny pieces that wouldn't made up half of your fingernail. I said, I ate a Krispy Kreme donut a few days ago. That's the glaze that fell off in the car while I'm eating the donut. They went, no, that's crystal methamphetamines. I said, it's Krispy Kreme glazed donut glaze. So they said, now, we're willing to work with you if you're willing to work with us. And I said, well, I can't work with you because I don't know anything.
Right, right.
So they said, well, you need to put your hands behind your back and you're under arrest. We're going to read you right. So
What are you acting like? Are you respectful? Are you shocked?
very,
Are
yeah.
you...
Even the officer told my attorney in a deposition that I was very respectful
Good.
and compliant.
Good.
And I was treated well by her too, except for the arrest part.
Yeah.
She was good to me. And my attitude, I'll tell you, 2 police officers were standing off to the side and they were heard saying, yeah, look at him. Look how calm he is. He knows he did it. He knows he's guilty. He's so calm.
Wow.
Well, that wasn't anything but Jesus.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I knew I didn't do anything
Was
wrong.
your heart beating fast? Or, I mean, were you a little bit nervous about this?
Well,
I mean, you're
a little
getting
bit.
handcuffed.
Yeah, I wasn't happy.
Yeah.
But I knew everything would turn out okay eventually. I know I hadn't done anything. So they drive me to the jail.
Well, let me ask you this before you go to the jail. She did have reason to believe this was crystal meth because she took the glaze, the sugar from the donut. By the way, you're at any point, you're more than welcome to have a donut, should you like one. We have these on the set just for you, Dan, because we know you love donuts.
Thank you.
Didn't she do 2 roadside tests on
Yes.
this crystal meth sugar?
Yes. The problem is she had never been trained.
Oh, okay.
And the other problem is that according to the New York Times, and I've heard some horror stories, Barbara, these tests give
False
a
positives.
false positive 1 out of 5 times.
Wow.
And I've heard horror stories since then about one woman in Texas went to jail for 2 years almost. And she finally got out because of a group called the Innocent Project, Innocence Project. So, and I just want to say, I don't have any animosity
Good.
to the police whatsoever. I'm not mad at this lady or any, they do a very tough job and it's dangerous.
That's part of the reason why I wanted to have you on, because I heard in your voice, we talked over the phone, viewers, and after I found out about Dan's story, and he was so respectful, and he was so, you're an advocate for the police force. You're not out here to persecute them,
No.
even though you faced unfair persecution. So I love your godly attitude, and I love the fact that, all right, let's go on with the rest of the story. You're handcuffed, you go to the police station, and this is pretty bad what happens to you here. Through no fault of anybody. This is just the way they do things.
Yep. So, by the way, my brother worked for OPD for over 20 years.
Is that right?
He retired. I worked with them.
They're your friends. You work for the
15
city,
years.
right?
You wouldn't meet a better group of guys and gals.
Right.
They're super. But anyway, so they take me to jail. You go through a strip search and everything, and
A strip search, a total strip search.
yeah, and-
At this point, I have to tell you, I would be like, okay, this has gone way too far, right? Are you not there yet?
I don't know what the Lord was with me, and I
Okay.
felt so calm. And a body cavity search, not a real.
Okay.
So I'm sitting in there and I'm calling my wife on the phone, who is a basket case about this.
Sure.
She's so sweet. I love her so much. I met her in church, by the way.
Good.
I saw her. She didn't even go to my church. She started going to my church. We were both praying for a spouse. And I saw her I did one of these. I saw her across and I went,
She's the one.
yeah, I said, who is that? We married. But anyway, she's such a sweet gal, real gorgeous. And She was a basket case, and the guys are all sitting around me at the jail because they have a phone you can use to call a bail bonds or whoever. So I'm explaining the situation, and everybody around me is snickering. You know?
Had you ever been to jail before?
Once over 30 years ago.
Okay. So you had a little bit of experience.
Tiny bit, yeah. So guy a couple of seats down from me said, "Sir, I'm sorry. I don't mean to laugh, but it is a funny story.
It is
and
a
you're
little
going to get some
comical.
money out of this," he told me, which at the time I didn't, you know.
Right, you weren't thinking that.
Yeah, so they send us upstairs, and I almost immediately get in a fist fight. I'm standing in line to use the phone, and this guy comes up and says, "Hey, I'm next." I went, "No, you're not." He said, "But I want to be next." I said, "Well, get set for a disappointment because you're not." You know, I'm thinking, I don't work out 30 years in the weight room and take martial arts for you to break in front of me. You know? So
You made your phone call.
I made my phone call, and, you know, I was there about 11 hours. I got out about 11 o'clock at night. I got arrested about noontime. My poor friend, in all deference to the officer, the guy kept calling me and calling me and calling me because he doesn't know where I am. He's got cancer. He's waiting to be picked up. She answered the phone and said, "You're going to need to get another ride," you know. So about 11 o'clock at night, my son-in-law I talked to him, and he said, "Why don't I pick you up instead of your wife? Because she's, you know." I said, "That's fine." So when he got home after picking me up, my daughter, Danielle, said, "Was he really upset?" And she went, "He came out smiling." And I said, later, "Well, that wasn't all great attitude. I was just happy to be out too."
Oh. But it's so ludicrous. I mean, it really is. You knew that you were innocent. You had treated everybody nicely. You're just being unfairly arrested and persecuted to some degree, right?
Oh, absolutely. And I got to witness to a guy. And
Good. Good.
You know, this very seldom happens to me, but I'm praying, and the Lord says, "That guy that was talking to you a while ago, I want you to tell him that I love him and that he needs to accept Jesus before it's too late." So as we're going upstairs, I said, "Look, I'm not a weirdo. I'm not a cult member. I'm a Baptist," you know. And I gave him the message, and he said, "Got it. Thanks."
Wow.
And then when I was leaving, he yelled out, "Hey," and then he gave me a thumbs up.
Good.
So
good. So
I
who
pray
knows?
for him still. Yeah.
That might have been the reason that you were there. You just
It
never
could be,
know.
and that's fine. I'd do it a million times again
Good.
to help somebody.
Good. All right, so you're out on bail, right?
Yes.
At 11 o'clock at night, you go home.
Yep.
Go to
And
bed, go to sleep.
Everything is just, my wife, "Are you going to prison?" I'm like, "No, honey, it's okay." And she said, "Well, what if they try to plant something or say," I said, "The Lord will take care of me. Don't worry
Good.
about it." I wasn't worried. Every Monday, you call in to see if you've got a court date yet, which I knew mine was going to be dropped. So finally, after 2 months, I think, I called in one Monday, and she said, "Oh, the charges were dropped." And actually, I got to chat with her and witness with her and talk to
Good.
her and tell her the story. She said, "Thanks for sharing that with me. That is an amazing story."
So why did they drop the charges? Did they recognize that it was a false positive drug test?
The FDLE
Okay.
said it's sugar.
Yeah, Krispy Kreme sugar.
Yeah, they always send it to the FDLE, the Florida Department of
Okay.
Law Enforcement, for
Okay.
a check.
Did you have any other conversation with the female officer who arrested you? I mean, she must have been super embarrassed. Was she put on leave? I mean, these things happen. Mistakes happen all the time. Was she punished for this? Or maybe this is not something you can talk about.
No, it's okay. She was disciplined, and they told her to sign a disciplinary
Okay.
sheet, and she said, "No, I quit." And it's real, you know, she was a
Sad.
You know, I heard her talking on the phone while I'm chained up next to her at 33rd Street getting processed, and she sounded like a sweet lady. Her son, something was going on with him, and she was concerned about her son, her young son, and she seemed like a sweet lady, beautiful gal. And I don't have any animosity to her.
Right, right. Well, and that's part of your story as well, is that sometimes things happen unfairly to us, but that was sort of an unfair thing that happened for her, because she was in a way justified in trying to find out if there was something wrong with you, with your car, with what she perceived was a problem. And so in a way, you know, she got some unfairness.
There was nothing malicious about what she did. She had never been trained on the kid. It came out wrong. And the only thing is, she told my attorney, "I'll never believe that was donut glaze," which I was a little upset about.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
You know,
you were unfairly treated. Obviously, she was unfairly treated as well. But what is going to happen next for Dan Rushing? I mean, you've got this incredible story. You have risen above the miry pit. You've come out of this.
Not yet. I'm still in the pit.
How are you in the pit?
It's a little depressing.
Really?
Yeah. Plus,
To this day, you mean?
No.
Oh, okay.
Let me tell you what happened, and then you'll find out. Because at this point, I'm trying to get a job, part-time job. I got a great team that I've worked with before, men and women who are strong in security. And we're trying to get some security work. And when I give people a flyer and tell them about us, I guess they look, and nothing had been settled by then. So anyway, I'm driving to the store one day, and I get a call. Hi, this is Renee Stutzman. I'm a reporter with the Orlando Sentinel. I saw from public records what happened to you, Dan, and I'm so sorry. Would you be willing to do an interview? We'd like to do a story. I said, sure. So the next day, I went down to the Sentinel. They taped an interview and a video. I really didn't think anything of it. Barbara.
It exploded.
I didn't tell you this, I don't think, but the next morning I woke up early to calls from CNN News, ABC News, radio stations, television stations, people that wanted to talk to me and do a story. And it was incredible. My son called and said, Dad, what's going on? I just got calls from Russia, from my friends in Russia saying, your dad's the only thing that people are talking about, even more popular than Putin.
Wow.
It was the #1 trending story in the world on July 27th of 2016. And it was the #3 story of the year as far as wacky story goes. So I got an attorney. I already had an attorney. At that point, the city's running to him saying, we'll settle for what you asked for now, which wasn't much. And he said, no, it's more now.
Because of your reputation, right?
Yes. And finally, we settled and got the check. That was, I believe, last October. So I walk out a few days later after that happened. They had a story. David Harris, a very nice young man and a good reporter for the Sentinel, told me, I'm going to do the story and I'm going to put it on the wires. Okay, So I'm walking out, going to breakfast the next morning. On the porch, there's a FedEx overnight envelope. Okay, who's this for? Oh, me. Okay, I open it up. Hi, this is Allison DeFranco. I'm the producer for the Steve Harvey Show. Steve and I would like you to be on this show. So I called her and said, sure. And sometime this year, I haven't got a date yet because it was so close to the end of the year. She said, we're booked all the way through the, past the first of the year. But
you will be on.
Yeah, I will be on.
Show.
She said, we want you. We just got to get a date for you.
So most people listening today would say, okay, how is that a miry pit? I mean, here you are. I mean,
that was this.
Celebrity
I was in the
status
pit before this.
Before this happened.
Yeah.
Because what? You couldn't get a job, or people were looking down their noses at you, or because you had a criminal record, or why? Why are you in the pit?
All of those.
All of the above. Okay.
So I'm not a great man like Joseph, but I felt like Joseph because he got thrown in prison for nothing.
Right.
He did nothing, and the Lord elevated him. And after that, I said, Lord, thank you so much. Here I was. Arrested, thrown in jail, and now I'm the #1 story in the world. And that's really one reason I want to tell people, if you're in a dark place right now and you're a Christian, give it over to the Lord. He can raise you up.
You have a platform now that you've never had before. You have been on international news. You will be on a national program like Steve Harvey. You're here on Welcome Home, which is going to be seen by 28 million homes in the Southeast. We're excited to tell your story because of your attitude, Dan, and because there are viewers out there today who will be unfairly persecuted, unfairly treated. I mean, what parent hasn't heard their kids say, that's not fair, Mom, that's not fair. Hey, life is not fair.
Right.
It's how we respond and how we react and how we deal with it. And you have dealt with it in a godly way. Now, this platform that you have, what is the message that you're trying to convey to people through this platform, brand new platform you have?
Well, first of all, I want to let people know, if you're a Christian and you've been unfairly, targeted for something, God can raise you up out of that. When I was in jail, sitting in jail, I said, Lord, I know that I'm here only because you allowed me to be here. And I don't know why I'm here, and that's okay. I may never know why I'm here, and that's okay. But now that I am here, can I please get out? But the thing is that I used to do stand-up and acting. I was on Comedy Central a few times, but my old agent, Vicki Rousman, called me right after it happened. I told my friends what happened, and she said, Dan, I know you didn't do anything. As soon as this is all cleared up, is it okay if I contact the late night TV shows and the talk shows, because they love this kind of thing? And I said, sure. And we hadn't contacted Steve yet. We were going with late night and then afternoon. And then, so she's contacted the president of Krispy Kreme, and he's very interested in turning it over as the PR department.
You should be their spokesperson, right?
Yeah.
Dan Rushing with a Krispy Kreme donut in his hand.
Like Jared, only not turning out like that. So, there may be more things coming, but I run into so many people and I get a chance to talk to them. And, Barbara, I've seen you on TV before. You love people. When you're a Christian, it's easy to love people, isn't it?
It is.
And I would love to help anybody that I can. And I just want to encourage you, if you're going through a bad time right now, trust the Lord. He'll lift you back up. If you're not a Christian, you need to know him.
That's right.
You just need to know him.
Do you have a life verse, Dan? A verse in the Bible that really speaks to you and maybe even resonates with this story in particular? Is that a tough question?
It's just the story of Joseph.
Okay, the whole story of Joseph.
I'm not like Joseph, a great man like Joseph, but he was in prison for something he didn't do at all. And it wasn't for a short time. He was in prison for years. And the Lord raised him up to be the second most powerful man in the world. Only Pharaoh was more powerful than him. And the Pharaoh gave everything over to him and told him to run it. So just if you're in a dark place, just trust God. He'll lift you out of it.
Well, the irony of it too, Dan, thank you for that, is that you were doing something altruistic. You're a park ranger. You had received all kinds of awards. You were an outstanding and upstanding citizen of Orlando, and you get persecuted unfairly from the very people that you work for. So that is really similar to Joseph's story. And I just appreciate your candor, your transparency, but more importantly, your heart in coming forward and saying, I'm going to take something that is super negative or could be super negative. I'm going to turn it around, and I'm going to use this as an opportunity to praise and glorify and honor God. And how many of us viewers have that opportunity in life where God gives us a platform? Maybe we feel ill-equipped to handle that situation, but God equips everybody. He is able to do the impossible. And I'm so glad that Dan Rushing came across our path today to tell us his story of unfair persecution. And again, more importantly, how he handled that in a godly way, with a way that is going to have eternal impact. I can't wait to see him on Steve Harvey. We're going to announce it. When that happens and that show happens here, Dan, we're going to say, don't miss Dan Rushing on the Steve Harvey Show, because I'm so excited for what God's doing for you in your life. So thanks for being here with us.
Sure. I'm actually more excited about being on this show than his show.
Oh, you're so precious.
Can reach people.
That's right. Reach people for the Lord. Thank you.
Yeah.
God bless you. Let's have some donuts. What do you think? We'll be right back. Stay with us, viewers. I hope you enjoyed our program today. How many of us as parents have heard our children say, that's not fair, it's just not fair? What has your response been? Well, if you're like me, you probably say, well, life's not fair, that's just the way it is. Not a very satisfactory answer, but it's the truth. Life is not fair. So how do we handle unfairness when it crosses our paths? Do we rebel? Do we complain? Do we cry and scream and yell, all of the above? Or are we mature enough in our walk with the Lord to say, well, I know it's not fair, and I can't control the situation, but I can control how I react to injustice and unfairness. Jesus talks about in Matthew, blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness. Now, every time we're treated unfairly doesn't mean we're persecuted, but it could mean that. To be unfairly persecuted because of a stand we make for Jesus, well, that's a pretty good thing. Jesus tells us we're blessed. But how do we get to a place in our spiritual journey where we react and respond in a godly way to unfairness and persecution? Even though as Christians we've died to self, to sin, we still let that creep into our responses sometimes. For me, if I'm in God's Word and have it hidden in my heart, then when I'm faced with situations that are less than idyllic, I have a chance to put my faith into action as I attempt to appropriate the power of the Holy Spirit by saying, as my good friend Mo Midlow teaches, "No, devil, not this time, not today. Through God's power, I've got this. I can be unfairly treated." Jesus was. I can be lied about. Jesus was. I can be physically beaten. Jesus was. And I can even die. Jesus did. Unfairness is a part of our walk as believers. How we handle it is up to our level of spiritual maturity. Oh, that we would have the mind of Christ and the strength to respond like Jesus would, even in the face of unfairness and persecution. And that, dear friends, is our note of hope for today. Thanks so much for joining us, and God bless you.